All right, time for another Josh cast. Still can't get off this Judge Dredd. I can't let it go. Those shoulder pads, I think about them day and night. I toss and turn. Those gigantic gold-plated shoulder pads. They're not even called shoulder pads. They're called pauldrons. A shoulder pauldron. This is a medieval armor, basically, is what it is. But the fact that it has the eagle on one pauldron, on the right pauldron, and not on the left pauldron. And there's actually a term for this. It's called asymmetrical balance. So even though it doesn't have the eagle on, his costume doesn't have the eagle on both pauldrons, because it has it on one pauldron, and on the other side, that he's got a badge and a chain. So even though it's not literally symmetrical, there is asymmetrical balance. This is a well-designed outfit. I don't think this was an outfit that was designed by a judge in the core of the people who created the judge system in the Judge Dredd universe. I feel like they went to an outside designer. And they said, "Excuse me, I understand you. I understand you design armor." That is right, I do. Yes, I am Designer Dredd. Designer Dredd. That's right. Designer Dredd. And I spell my last name D-R-E-I-D-D-E. Why? Because it's beautiful. Well, Designer Dredd. We are instituting a new kind of law enforcement officer. We call him a judge, a street judge specifically, who can be judge, jury, and executioner in these very trying futuristic times. And we need a uniform for the judge. We need something that's functional. We need something that can protect him from the bullets and the hurting and the stabbing, but also something that conveys his position. I'm going to stop you right there. I've already designed this. While you were talking to me, I have already designed this. Behold, the judge uniform. Those are big shoulder pads. They are not shoulder pads. They are pauldrons. Right, but I noticed that you've got an eagle on one pauldron, but not on the other one. And I mean, shouldn't they be on both of them? Have you never heard of asymmetrical balance? Oh, right. I gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, asymmetrical balance. Yes, it has asymmetrical balance. I am asymmetrical balance. Well, I mean, technically you have bilateral symmetry. Technically you are symmetrical. That's more of a biological thing. I am Designer Dredd. I know that's who you are. I get that. So these pauldrons, they're not actually made of gold, are they? They are! Each pauldron is $75,000. Well, we don't exactly have the budget for that. I don't think you understand who I am. No, I get that you're Designer Dredd. Yes! I am Designer Dredd. I will not allow you to have one of your street judges running around with silver pauldrons or platinum pauldrons, or copper pauldrons. Certainly not any kind of pauldrons that are painted in a pastel color. It must be gold pauldrons. You have to understand that the last man who refused my design was murdered by my own hand. Well, if that's the case, technically, you should be tried for murder. No one can try Designer Dredd. Not even Judge Dredd. Listen, can we maybe think about it? No, you're already wearing the uniform. Jesus, I am already wearing the uniform. How did you do that? I am Designer Dredd. These pauldrons are very heavy. Wow, I'm getting a neck cramp here. Well, if you can't stand the heat, maybe you should get out of the oven. I think it's if you can't stand the heat, you should get out of the... I am Designer Dredd! I am aphorisms! Alright, I never said you weren't. I'm trying to... this is the big discovery. I'm changing the subject, by the way. No, you're not! Yes, no, I am changing the subject. I am changing the subject. I have been, very down because of, what's happening. And the things I'm seeing are just beyond horrible. And, but the interesting thing is, in all of this, is that a year ago, when everything was quote-unquote fine, I was depressed. I've been chronically depressed. And so I'm really seeing that the external circumstances of what's going on around me in this weird way don't matter. And it's, I've always heard this. My mom told me this a million times. Like, it's not what happens in life. It's how you react to what happens. And what's interesting about that is that no matter what happens, if I react in a way where I'm negative and depressed, I'm negative and depressed. I think that's why, I see people around me who are really, down because of what's happening. And I find myself feeling less down, or it seems like I'm less down than they are. And that's just because I was already down. I was preparing my entire life for this. So now the question is, how do I function in this new world? Because who knows how long this is going to last. And surprisingly, I guess what I'm realizing is that if it doesn't matter what the external circumstances are, and my depression is just how I react to any stimulus, then perhaps, dare I say it, it's time that I start focusing on the mechanisms internally that lead me to that state of being. And if I start working on those, then whether what happens externally is good or bad, how I react to it will determine how I feel about it and how I live. And in an odd way, that's very freeing, because I think so much of my, So much of how I judged myself as being a success or a failure was based off of the results of what I was doing. And so by letting all that go and having, no concern of results, if I can really do that, I think suddenly now life is just what's happening today. What do I want to eat today? What do I want to do today? So that's a nice realization. And there are times where I can really feel that realization. And then there are times where I find myself getting caught up back in old habits. So there we are, my friends. There we are. There we are. This is happening. How do we feel about it? I am Buddhist Dredd. That doesn't seem, I don't know, that doesn't seem very Buddhist. How do you spell Dredd? Drugdeeiee. But it's pronounced Dredd. Buddhist Dredd. I don't just practice meditation, I am meditation. Actually, that is Buddhist. All right, good. I don't like that last little giggle I did. That little giggle was meant to say, well, I think it's funny. Well, I think it's quite good, actually. It's not for me to say if it's funny. It's not for me to laugh. It's for you to laugh. Oh boy. A lot of these businesses are starting to close. Actually, I think that one might have been closed before this. But it just looks like what? Like we've been through this before. This happened in 1917, Spanish flu. And I think the likelihood that it's going to happen again, and as fast as it happened, is going to be increased because, well, friends, we are, well, at least we were a more interconnected society. I also wonder if it will be harder to travel internationally, or if there will be less desire to travel internationally. And if there will be less need to travel internationally, because as more commerce and more work, goes online, will there be a need for somebody to fly out to another country to have a meeting or manage something? Maybe it can all be done remotely. I don't know the answer to that question. But what I do know is this. There can only be one Highlander. How about a Highlander musical? Maybe that's what the world needs right now. There can only be one Highlander. We battle for the ultimate prize. We gouge out our face and our eyes. In the end, there can be only one Highlander. My name is Connor MacLeod. I'm from the Clan MacLeod. My name is Ramirez. I'm a wandering poet swordsman. My name is Angry Skull Guy, that I can't remember the name of the movie guy. Angry Skull Person. I wear skulls, and I kill even more people. So I am evil because everyone else, they're just killing other Highlanders, but I kill everybody. Highlander, that can only be one. Do, that can only be one. That can only be one. That can only be one. There can only be one. Wow, here in Scotland, things are really violent. I've just been stabbed, but somehow I'm still alive. I'm Ramirez. I'll explain. You're a Highlander. Can we please make that into a musical, please? And here's what's important. Here's what's important for that Highlander musical. No one can have any accents. They all have to speak in that kind of musical theater, like excited, flat American accent. Even though in the original Highlander movie, the Scottish guy is played by a French guy who has a French accent, and then the Spaniard is played by the Scottish guy who has a Scottish accent, or Welsh. Maybe is Connery Welsh? No, he's Scottish. He's Scottish. So all the accents are all over the place. And then I think the bad guy in that one was just an American. Highlander, Highlander, say hi to your fate. Highlander, Highlander, say bye to your great love. Highlander, Highlander, let's get high with the Highlander. Is that a sword in your pocket, or are you happy to see me? Stop making jokes. Let's fight for the prize. Swing, swing, swing. I guess I've won the prize. I'm a Highlander that's on high. Highlander. Well, people, you heard it here. This is the day I've truly lost my mind. I feel good about this podcast. I feel like I've accomplished quite a bit here.